We got this. We got this. We got this. Hopefully the cat won't throw a fit during the time. Hi guys, it's me, Lovejoy. I'm back to read the next chapter of Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. Um, it is. Oh, I forgot it. This is the first time that I have done anything work or filming or YouTube related since throwing my birth self a birthday party celebration, and it was a really wonderful time. So forgot to take the thing off the chair. So if you're wondering what this little flame is, it's like you can't see it. It's a birthday cake chair topper. Okay, so I'm Lovejoy and I read books that are important. So we're getting started with Parable of the Sower. This is a story of, she's like 17 now in the story. Lauren, she's a teenager living in Southern California, kind of in late 2020s, so it's like 2026 at the beginning of this chapter. And there's no water, there's a lot of crime running rampant. I am working. That's not helpful. Thank you. So crime is running rampant. There is still the government and the political parties, but they don't seem to be doing anything effective. And kind of where we are at in the book, Chinese, French, and Canadian corporation, I believe, just bought a coastal town off of the coast of the United States close to where they live, and people are considering moving there or not, and she is considering moving elsewhere. So that is that. And so we're in chapter 13, page 137. Make sure you have some water. It's very, very, very important to hydrate. No one wants to die. Chapter 13. There is no end to what a living world will demand of you. Earthseed, the Books of the Living, Saturday, December 19th, 2026. Today, Reverend Matthew Robinson, in whose church I was baptized, came to preach my father's funeral. Corey made the arrangements. There was no body, no urn. No one knows what happened to my father. Neither we nor the police have been able to find out. We're sure he's dead. He would find a way to come home if he were alive. So we're certain he's dead. Good sir. Excuse me. Do not cause trouble. Okay. Thank you. So we're certain he's dead. No, we're not certain. We're not certain at all. Is he sick somewhere? Hurt? Held against his will for who knows what reason by who knows what monsters? This is worse than when Keith died. So much worse. As horrible as that was, we knew he was dead. Whatever he suffered, we knew he wasn't suffering anymore. Not in this world, anyway. We knew. Now we don't know anything. He is dead, but we don't know. The Dunes must have felt this when Tracy vanished. Crazy as they are, crazy as she was, they must have felt this. What do they feel now? Tracy never came back. If she's not dead, what must be happening to her outside? A girl alone only faced one kind of future outside. I intend to go out posing as a man when I go. How will they feel when I go? I'll be dead to them, to Corey, to the boys, to the neighborhood. They'll hope I'm dead, considering the supposed alternative. Thank Dad for my tallness and my strength. I won't have to leave Dad now. He's already left me. He was 57. What reason would strangers have for keeping 57-year-old man alive? Once they robbed him, they would either let him go or kill him. If they let him go, he'd come home, walking, limping, crawling. So he's dead. That's that. It has to be. Tuesday, December 22nd, 2026. The Garfields left for Oliver today. Oliver's the coastal city that was bought up. Philadad, Jay, and Joanne. An armored KSF truck came from Oliver to collect them and their belongings. The adults of the community had all they could do to keep the little kids from climbing all over the truck and pestering the drivers to death. Most kids my brother's ages have never been close to a truck that runs. Most of the younger Moss kids have never seen a truck of any kind. The Moss kids weren't even allowed to visit the Giannis's house back when the Giannis's television still worked. The two guys from KSF were patient once they realized the kids weren't thieves or vandals. Those two guys with their uniforms, pistols, whips, and clubs looked more like cops than movers. No doubt they had even more substantial weapons in the truck. My brother Bennett said he saw bigger guns mounted inside the truck when he climbed onto the hood. But when you consider how much a truck that size is worth and how many people might want to relive them of it and its contents, I guess weaponry isn't surprising. The two movers were a black and a white, and I could see that Corey considered that hopeful. Maybe Oliver wouldn't be the white enclave that Dad had expected. Corey cornered the black guy and talked to him for as long as he would let her. Will she try now to get us into Oliver? I think she will. After all, without Dad's salary, she'll have to do something. I don't think we have a prayer of being accepted. The insurance company isn't going to pay, or not for a long time. It's people it's people choose not to believe that Dad is dead. Without proof, he can't be declared legally dead for 7 years. Can they hold on to our money for that long? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. We could starve many times over in 7 years. And Corey must know she alone can't earn enough in Oliver to feed and house us. Is she hoping to get work for me too? I don't know what we're going to do. Joanne and I cried all over each other, saying goodbye. We promised to phone each other to stay in touch. I don't think we'll be able to. It costs extra to call Oliver. We won't be able to afford it. I don't think she will either. Chances are I'll never see her again. The people I've grown up with are falling out of my life, one by one. After the truck pulled away, I found Curtis and took him back to the old dark room to make love. We hadn't done it for a long time, and I needed it. I wish I could imagine just marrying Curtis and staying here and having a decent life with him. It isn't possible. Even if there were no Earth seed, it wouldn't be possible. I would almost be doing the family a favor if I left now, one less mouth to feed, unless I could somehow get a job. We've got to get out of here too, Curtis said as we lay together afterward, lingering, tempting fate, not wanting to lose the feel of each other so soon. But that wasn't what he had meant. I turned my head to look at him. Don't you want to go? He asked. Wouldn't you like to get out of this dead end neighborhood, out of Robledo? I nodded. I was just thinking that, but I want you to marry me, and I want us to get out of here, he said in a near whisper. This place is dying. I raised myself to my elbows and looked down at him. The only light in the room came from a single window up near the ceiling. Nothing covered it any more, and the glass was broken out of it, but still only a little light came in. Curtis's face was full of shadows. Where do you want to go? I asked him. Not Olivar, he said. That could turn out to be a bigger dead end than living here. Where then? I don't know. Oregon or Washington? Canada? Alaska? I don't think I gave any sign of sudden excitement. People tell me my face doesn't show them what I'm feeling. My sharing has been a hard teacher, but he saw something. You've already been thinking about leaving, haven't you? He demanded. That's why you won't talk about getting married. I rested my hand on his smooth chest. You are thinking about going alone. He grasped my wrist, seeming ready to push it away. Then he held on to it, kept it. You are just going to walk away from here and leave me. I turned so that he couldn't see my face because now I had a feeling my emotions were all too obvious. Confusion, fear, hope. Of course I had intended to go alone. And of course I hadn't told anyone that I was leaving. I had not decided yet how Dad's disappearance would affect my going. That raised frightening questions. What are my responsibilities? What will happen to my brothers if I leave them to Corey? They're her sons, and she'll move the earth to take care of them, keep them fed and clothed and housed. But can't she do it alone? How? I want to go, I admitted, moving around, trying to be comfortable on the pallet of old slap sacks that we had to put down on the concrete floor. I planned to go. Don't tell anyone. How can I go if I'm with you? I smiled, loving him. But Corey and my brothers are going to need help, I said. When my father was here, I planned to go next year when I'm 18. Now, I don't know. Where were you going? North. Maybe as far as Canada. Maybe not. Alone? Yeah. Why? Why alone, he meant. I shrugged. I could get killed as soon as I leave here. I could starve. The cops could pick me up. Dogs could get me. I could catch a disease. Anything could happen to me. I've thought about it. I haven't named half the bad possibilities. That's why you need help. That's why I couldn't ask anyone else to walk away from food and shelter and as much safety as there is in our world. To just start walking north and hope you wind up someplace good? How could I ask that of you? It's not that bad. Farther north, we can get work. Maybe. But people have been flooding north for years. Jobs are scarce up there too, and state lines and borders are closed. There's nothing down here. I know. So how can you help Corey and your brothers? I don't know. We haven't figured out what to do. So far, nothing I've thought of will work. They'd have more of everything if you left. Maybe, but Curtis, how can I leave them? Could you walk away and leave your family not knowing how they would manage to survive? Sometimes I think so, he said. I ignored that. He didn't get along very well with his brother Michael, but his family was probably the strongest unit in the neighborhood. Take on one of them, gotta deal with them all. He would never walk away from them if they were in trouble. Marry me now, he said. We'll stay here and help your family get on its feet, and then we'll leave. Not now, I said. I can't see how anything is going to work out now. Everything's too crazy. And what? You think it's going to get sane? It's never been sane. You just go ahead, no matter what. Sorry, you just go ahead and live, no matter what. I didn't know what to say, so I kissed him, but I couldn't distract him. I hate this room, he said. I hate hiding to be with you, and I hate playing games. He paused. But I do love you. Damn, somehow I almost wish I didn't. Don't wish that, I said. He knew so little about me, and he thought he knew everything. I never told him about my sharing, for instance. I'll have to before I marry him. If I don't, when he finds out, he'll know I didn't trust him enough to be honest with him. And not much is known about sharing. Suppose I pass it on to my kids. Then there's Earthseed. I'll have to tell him about that. What will he think? That I've gone crazy? I can't tell him, not yet. We could live at your house, he said. My parents would help out with food. Maybe I could find some kind of job. I want to marry you, I said. I hesitated, and there was absolute silence. I couldn't believe I heard myself say such a thing, but it was true. Maybe I just was just feeling bereft. Keith, my father, the Garfields, Mrs. Quintilla, people could disappear so easily. I wanted to be someone with me who cared about me and who wouldn't disappear. But my judgment wasn't entirely gone. When my family is back on its feet, we'll marry, I said. Then we can get out of here. I just have to know that my brothers will be all right. If we're going to marry anyway, why not do it now? Because I have things to tell you, I thought. Because if you reject me or make me reject you with your reactions, I don't want to hang around and watch you with someone else. Not now, I said. Wait for me. He shook his head in obvious disgust. What the hell do you think I've been doing? Thursday, December 24th, 2026. It's Christmas Eve. Last night, someone set fire to the Payne Parish house. While the community tried to put out the fire and then tried to keep it from spreading, 3 other houses were robbed. Ours was one of the 3. Thieves took all our store-bought food, wheat flour, sugar, canned goods, packaged goods. They took our radio, our last one. The crazy thing is, before we went to bed, we had been listening to a half-hour news feature about increasing arson. People are setting more fires to cover crimes, although why they would bother these days, I don't know. The police are no threat to criminals. People are setting fires to do what our arsonist did last night, to get the neighbors of the arson victim to leave their own homes unguarded. People are setting fires to get rid of whomever they dislike from personal enemies, to anyone who looks or sounds foreign or racially different. People are setting fires because they're frustrated, angry, hopeless. They have no power to improve their lives, but they have the power to make others even more miserable. The only way to prove to yourself that you have power is to use it. Then there's that fire drug with its dozen or so names: Blaze, Fugo, Flash, Sunfire. The most popular name is Pyro, short for pyromania. It's all the same drug, and it's been around for a while. From what Keith said, it's becoming more popular. It makes watching the leaping, changing patterns of a fire better, more intense, longer lasting high than sex. Like Pericteto, my biological mother's drug of choice. Pyro screws around with people's neurochemistry. I don't think I'm going to say this right, but Pericteco began as a legitimate drug intended to help victims of Alzheimer's disease. Pyro was an accident. It was a homebrew, a basement drug invented by someone who was trying to assemble one of the other higher priced street drugs. The inventor made a very small chemical mistake and wound up with pyro. That happened on the East Coast and caused an immediate increase in the number of senseless arson fires, large and small. Pyro worked its way west without making nearly as much trouble as it could have. Now its popularity was growing. And in dry as straw Southern California, it can cause a real orgy of burning. My God, Corey said when the radio report was over. In the small, whispery voice she quoted from the book of Revelation. Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils. And the devils set fire to the Payne Parish house. At about 2 a.m., I woke to the jangling of the bell. Emergency, earthquake, fire, intruders. But there was no shaking, no unfamiliar noise, no smoke. Whatever was happening, it wasn't at our house. I got up, threw clothing on, debated for a second whether to snatch my survival pack, and then left it. Our house didn't seem to be in immediate danger. My pack was safe in the closet, mixed in among blankets and bundles of old clothes. If I had to have it, I could come back and snatch it in seconds. I ran outside to see what was needed and saw at once. The Payne Parish house was fully involved and surrounded by fire. One of the watchers on duty was still sounding the alarm. People spilled from all the houses and must have seen as I did that the parish house was a total loss. Neighbors were already wetting down the houses on either side. A live oak tree, one of our huge ancient ones, was afire. There was a light wind blowing, swirling bits of burning leaves and twigs into the air and scattering them. I joined the people who were beating and wetting the grounds. Where were the Paynes? Where was Wordle Parish? Had anyone called the fire department? A house full of people, after all. It wasn't like a burning garage. I asked several people. Tyler Coltott said that she had called them. I was grateful and ashamed. I wouldn't have asked if Dad were still with us. One of us would have just called. Now we couldn't afford to call. No one had seen any of the Paynes. Wordle Parish I found in the Yanis's yard where Corey and my brother Bennett were wrapping him in a blanket. He was coughing so much that he couldn't talk and was wearing only pajama pants. Is he okay? I asked. He breathed a lot of smoke, Corey said. Has someone called the fire department? Good, but no one's at the gate to let them in. I'll go. I turned away, but she caught my arm. The others? She whispered. She meant the Paynes, of course. I don't know. She nodded and let me go. I went to the gate, borrowing Alex Montoya's key on the way. He always seemed to have his gate key in his pocket. It was because of him that I didn't go back into our house and maybe interrupt a robbery and be killed for my trouble. Firefighters arrived in no great hurry. I let them in, locked the gate after them, and watched as they put out the fire. No one had seen the Paynes. We can only assume they had never gotten out. Corey tried to take Wardle Parish to our house, but he refused to leave until he found out one way or the other about his twin sister and his nieces and nephews. When the fire was almost out, a bell began to ring again. We all looked around. Caroline Balter, Harry's mother, was jerking and pushing at the bell and screaming, "Intruders!" she shouted. "Thieves! They've broken into the houses!" And we all rushed without thinking back to our homes. Wordle Parish came along with my family, still coughing and wheezing and as useless and as weaponless as the rest of us. We could have been killed rushing in that way. Instead, we were lucky. We scared away our thieves. Along with our store-bought food and the radio, the thieves got some of Dad's tools and supplies: nails, wires, screws, bolts, that kind of thing. They didn't get the phone, the computer, or anything in Dad's office. In fact, they didn't get into Dad's office at all. I suppose we scared them away before they could search the whole house. They stole clothing and shoes from Corey's room, but didn't touch my room or the boys'. They got some of our money, the kitchen money, Corey calls it. She hid it in the kitchen in a box of detergent. She thought no one would steal such a thing. In fact, the thieves might have stolen it for resale without realizing that it wasn't just detergent. It could have been worse. The kitchen money was only about $1,000 for minor emergencies. The thieves did not find the rest of our money, some of it hidden out by our lemon tree, some hidden with our 2 remaining guns under the floor in Corey's closet. Dad had gone to a lot of trouble of making a kind of floor safe, not locked, but completely concealed beneath a rug and a battered chest of drawers filled with sewing things. Salvaged bits of cloth, buttons, zippers, hooks, things like that. The chest of drawers could be moved with one hand. It slid from one side of the closet to the other if you pushed it right, and in seconds you could have the money and the guns in your hands. The concealment trick wouldn't have defeated people who had time to make a thorough search, but it had defeated our thieves. They had dumped some of the drawers onto the floor, but they had not thought to look under the chest. The thieves did take Corey's sewing machine. It was a compact, sturdy old machine with its own carrying case. Both case and machine were gone. That was a real blow. Corey and I both used that machine to make, alter, and repair clothing for the family. I had thought I might even be able to earn some money with that machine, sewing for other people in the neighborhood. Now the machine is gone. Sewing for the family will have to be done by hand. It will take much more time and may not look like what we're used to. Bad, hard, but not a fatal blow. Corey cried over the loss of her machine, but we can get along without it. She's just being worn down by one blow after another. We'll adapt. We have to. God is change. Strange how much it helps me to remember that. Curtis Talcott came to my window to tell me that the firemen had found charred bodies and bones in the ashes of the Payne Parish house. The police are here, taking reports of the robberies and the obvious arson. I told Corey. She can tell Wardle Parish or let the cops tell him. He's lying down on one of our other living room couches. I doubt he's sleeping. Even though I've never liked him, I feel sorry for him. He's lost his house and his family. He's the only survivor. What must that be like? Tuesday, December 29th, 2026. I don't know how long it can last, but in some way that I suspect is not quite legal, Corey has taken over part of the job Dad held for so long. She'll give the classes Dad gave. With the computer hookups we already had in place, she'll issue assignments, receive homework, and be available for phone and Combu conferences. The administrative part of Dad's work will be handled by someone else who can use the extra money and is willing to show up at the college more often than once or twice a month. It will be as though Dad were still teaching but had decided to give up his other responsibilities. Corey has arranged this by pleading and begging, by crying and cajoling, and calling in every favor and every friend she could think of. People at the college know her. She taught there before Bennett's birth, before she saw the need here and began the front room school that serves all the children of the neighborhood. Dad was all for her quitting the college because he didn't want her going back and forth outside, exposed to all the dangers that involved. The neighbors pay a per kid fee, but it isn't much. No one can support a household on it. Now Corey will have to go outside again. She's already drafting men and older boys in the neighborhood to escort her when she has to go out. There are plenty of unemployed men here, and Corey will be paying them a small fee. So in a few days, the new team will start and Corey will do Dad's work, while I do her work. I'll handle the school with help from her and from Russell Dory, Joanne, and Harry's grandfather. He used to be a high school math teacher. He's been retired for years, but he's still sharp. I don't think I need his help, but Corey does, and he's willing, so that's that. Alex Montoya and Kyla Talcott will take over Dad's preaching and other church work. Neither is ordained, but both have substituted for Dad in the past. Both have authority in the community and the church, and of course, both know their Bible. This is how we will survive and hold together. It will work. I don't know how long it will last, but for now, it will work. Wednesday, December 30th, 2026. Wardle Parish has finally dragged himself back to his people, the part of his family that he lived with before he and his sister inherited the Sims house. He stayed with us since his sister. Ooh, that was a tongue twister. He's stayed with us since his sister and all her children were killed. Corey gave him some of Dad's clothes, which were much too big for him. Much too big. He wandered around, not talking, not seeming to see anything, not eating enough. Then yesterday he said, like a little boy, I want to go home. I can't stay here. I hate it here. Everyone's dead. I have to go home. So, today, Wyatt Talcott, Michael, and Curtis escorted him home. Poor man. He's years older than he was a week ago. I think he may not live much longer. And that's the end of 2026. We're going into 2027, folks. I'm going to be honest with you. I've said this once and I'll probably say it again. I am struggling with such a sad book. I typically choose to read books as a form of escapism. Something to bring me a little bit of love, a little bit of light, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of joy. This is darker than I am typically used to reading, but I think it's important. I think it's powerful. The reason I started this channel is to get interesting books that might not be as accessible or talked about out there. I don't know if this necessarily fits in with that theme, but it is interesting to think about where we as a society are going and the picture that this is painting. I'd like to hope that because this is the story that's been painted, we are heading in a direction that's like better than what's been depicted. But we do have a pretty awful history when it comes to America and society and how we used money to get here. I'm talking about the Roths, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds, and all of those families. This is a book I read in 2019. It made me so angry that I screamed and threw it across the room multiple times. Um, and you know what? I don't remember which paragraph I read, so I don't want to reread one. And so I'm just going to tell you about it. But yeah, this book is written by these two guys. The book is Killing the Planet, How a Financial Cartel Doomed Mankind. I do have plans to eventually strip all the audio and turn this into a podcast, so I have to keep that in mind. But yeah, it just follows the history of basically the Rockefeller family and the deals that they made to have the money that they do. And it just really, it's like kind of reading like a citations list with like a history book that's just out of citations. I don't know. It's pretty intense. Just all the ways that they've used and corrupted and abused and exploited people over time. But I can't just sit through and read that because it's very frustrating. So it's just like something that I want people to be aware of, picking through slowly but surely. And the last section is the Nag Hammadi Scriptures. I'm a queer person of faith. That is a very important tenet of who I am. Okay, cool. And a big reason why I started on YouTube is to be a presence and to talk about being a queer person of faith or about the truth of faith and the ways that things have been changed or twisted. If you're interested in hearing more about queer faith, I highly recommend listening to Queer Magic. It's the book I read right before this one. It covers like third gender people and their faith practices from culture all around the world. It's a fantastic book. But we're just going to read a little paragraph or story from this, which is written documents that were placed in the Dead Sea Scrolls around the same time the modern, like New Testament scriptures were written. They were written in the same time. Those just were not put in scrolls and or clay jars. Anyway, they were found in the 1980s and have been slowly pieced together and translated. So that way we can have the information today. And what I am reading is the paraphrase of Shem, and it is nature casts off fire and establishes fate. Feels significant in today's theme with the fire in the previous reading. In prideful ignorance, nature turned over her dark womb and expelled the power of fire that was in her from the beginning through the sexuality of darkness. The fire raised itself up and shone on the whole creation instead of the righteous one. All of the forms of the womb sent their powers like flames up of fire up to heaven to help the light that was corrupted that had raised itself up. They were the members of the restless fire. She did not realize she had harmed herself alone. When she cast out the power that is powerful, she expelled it from her genitals. It was the demon, a deceiver, who aroused the womb toward every form. In her ignorance, as though she were doing a great work, nature granted the demons and the winds a star each. Without wind and star, nothing happens on the earth. It is though every power of the earth is filled, since they are released from darkness and fire, from power and light. For the place where their darkness and their fire mingled each other, beasts were brought forth. It was in the place of darkness and fire, of the power of mind and light, that human beings came into existence. Since the thought of the light, my eye, is from the Spirit, it does not exist in every person. For before the flood came about through the winds and the demons, evil came to people. Man, I really wish someone you were like physically here with me so that I could like talk about this. And um Tiffany, were you really getting into this story? Well, then we just have to listen to the next chapter. We just have to listen to the which might be tomorrow, which might be in 3 weeks. Who the heck knows? Um, a big reason why I started this channel is because I was like, I need something that I can realistically do even when I'm having a pinched nerve flare up. This weekend I realized that even when I'm having a pinched nerve flare up, there's nothing I can do. I can't talk. I'm very mute and nonverbal. Um, which was frustrating because I really thought it'd be a good opportunity to like share what it's like, but I couldn't. And I also realized that like, how could I ever think sure that I could be reading if I can't even talk? Um, and also brought in a lot of thoughts about just my employment eligibility in general. But that's we don't need to talk about that right now. What I want to talk about is faith and this cool passage about nature expelling her womb, the power of fire through the sexuality of darkness. Hot. But that makes me think of volcanoes. Makes me think of volcanoes. Um, and then also this sentence over here at the end. For before the flood came about, so I think that this is probably the flood mentioned in Noah, but also a flood is mentioned in every major ancient culture. There's a major flood story mentioned, so that's just interesting and significant. Um, so just saying that before the flood, evil came to people. And it's annoying because this says it's 27, 1 through 28, 8. So I'm assuming chapter 27 or something like that versus 1 through 28. And then a random 8. And then nature plans to destroy Sodom. So, like the next little section right here says chapter 28, verses 8 through 30 and 4. So I don't exactly know what they mean by all that. This is so interesting. Okay, so then I'm just going to read this. This is very interesting. Nature plans to destroy Sodom. In order that the power that was in the tower might still be brought forth and that might rest on the earth, nature, which has been disturbed, wanted to harm the seed that would come into being on the earth after the flood. Demons were sent to them, as well as the deceit of the winds, the burden of angels, the fear of the prophet, the verbal condemnation, that I might teach you, O Shem, from what blindness your race is protected. When I have revealed to you all that has been said, then the righteous one will shine upon creation with my garment. Night and day will separate from one another. I shall hurry down to creation to bring the light to that place faith possesses. And I shall appear to those who have acquired the thought of the light of the Spirit. Because of them, my greatness appeared. When he will appear, O Shem, on the earth, in the place that will be called Sodom, safeguard the insight I shall give you. For those whose heart is pure will gather close to you because of the word you will reveal. When you appear in creation, dark nature will shake against you, as well as the winds and their demons, so that they may destroy insight. But you proclaim quickly to the Sodomites your universal teaching, for they are your members. The demon in human form will depart from that place, since by my will he is ignorant. He will guard this teaching. The Sodomites, however, in accordance with the will of the Majesty, will bear witness to the universal testimony. They will rest with pure consciousness in the place of their repose, which is the unbegotten Spirit. As these things happen, Sodom will be burned unjustly by perverse nature. Evil will not cease so that your greatness may appear there. Then the demon will depart with faith, and he will appear in the four regions of creation. What's interesting is I'm wondering if the burning of Sodom is like talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a story that is often used to describe homosexuality as being like a sin from or like a sin that's worthy of being burned. When in actuality, the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was the lack of hospitality The fact that the entire city rose up and wanted to rape strangers. That's what the sin was. Anyway, so I'm wondering, I have no way of proving this because this is just reading this impromptu right now, but I'm wondering if this is in talking about that story coming in the future. I don't know. That's just interesting. That just made me think about it. Um, oh, you're still here with me. I love you, Tiffany. You're amazing. Thank you. But okay. Um, okay, I'm just gonna read this one because it's like the final story, but it's faith of nature appears and the Savior is baptized. It's just this last sentence looks good. When Faith appears in the last likeness, her appearance will be exposed. For the firstborn is the demon who appeared in the celestial framework of nature with many faces, in order that faith might be manifested in him. When he appears in creation, evil wrath will break out, and earthquakes, wars, famines, and blasphemies. Because of him, the whole world will be disturbed. He will seek the power of light and faith and light, but he will not find it. At that time, the demon will also appear on the river to baptize with an imperfect baptism and to disturb the world with the bondage of water. It is necessary for me then to appear among the members of the thought of faith in order to reveal the great works of my power. I shall separate thought out of the demon who has sold us, and I shall mix the light, which has something from the Spirit, with my invincible garment, as well as the one whom I shall reveal in the darkness for your sake, and for the sake of your race, which will be protected from evil darkness. That's just so interesting. That's just so interesting. Like, at the base level, if you think about scriptural works, like, it's storytelling that has surpassed the test of time. And that is phenomenal. That's like a miracle in itself. And the Jewish people were set apart because of a lot of their practices and storytelling and cleanliness and how the rules that they set aside for themselves. And it's just interesting how the story has devolved from there. It's also really interesting to think about the number of prophecies that are in the Bible that have come true. I believe over 1,000 at this point. Um, Excuse me. I don't think I marked that page because I want to go back and find it later. But that was just really interesting to me. And yeah, I think it would be cool to build community to talk about things like that. That's what I'm trying to do slowly but surely. Um, I don't know. Life moves slowly, but we just keep trucking along. And I'm grateful that you're here for hanging out with me. If you lasted this long, you're like my till the end of time people. So thanks for everything. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm supposed to say about like subscribing and liking and sharing and finding me in other places to help and support me, but that's just difficult and hard and embarrassing. And I'm just grateful that we spent this time together. And also, I really have to go to the bathroom, so that's what I'm going to go do. But anyway, I hope you have a really great day. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope I'll see you soon. You're amazing. You're loved. You're valued. You're important. You are protected. You are made with a beautiful divine light. Share with the world, and I'm really glad you exist. Thanks for hanging out with me and sitting here with me and getting me through this because I'm really glad I did it now, and we get to do it again later. See you later. Talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.